se tu prendi un insegnamento dovresti portartelo avanti.
E la situazione, siamo ancora come all'inizio dell'anno scorso, del 2020.
The ritual of the morning espresso, fueling a buzz that seems reassuringly pre-pandemic. Bergamo in spring looks revived, even bright, with the past reborn. But a shadow looms. Italy's plan to reconquer normality has stumbled badly. Just like its vaccination effort, less rollout, more dropout. COVID cases are rising again, and with them an unseen unease in the Piazza Vecchia. The memories of last March still stalk every street. 12 months ago, those same streets saw army trucks transporting bodies from overflowing hospital morgues. In those early days, at the epicenter of Europe's first outbreak, Bergamo felt, for a time, like the most dangerous place on earth.
Ok.
And Claudio Travelli felt like he was dying. By the time his family called for an ambulance, overrun local hospitals were resorting to a new, unthinkable 7-word policy. Prioritize patients with highest chance of survival. Doctors effectively had to play God. Claudia could not be taken to hospital that night because there were no beds available. He did get worse, but by then a bed had become free.
Stato 15 giorni in terapia intensiva, una settimana al reparto e mi hanno dimesso. Dopo la mia storia è andata avanti ancora 5-6 mesi, non riuscivo più a mettermi in sesto tra polmone, dolori che non avevo mai sentito prima. Adesso comincio a star meglio. Venite!
Bambini!
He's well enough now to look after his grandchildren, but he stays cocooned inside the family bubble.
Per me non è cambiato niente, perché la gente ha paura, continuano solo a cambiare colori e non fanno niente, sia sui vaccini, con le varianti, è che io non mi sento ancora sicuro. Infatti quel poco che esco, dove c'è gente, io ritorno a casa e non mi sento sicuro finché non farò il vaccino.
That same anxiety runs through the long queues for vaccines. Even before Italy's suspension of Oxford AstraZeneca doses, supply and organizational issues were hampering the rollout.
Avremmo potuto fare di meglio, sicuramente avremmo potuto vaccinare la popolazione in misura maggiore. Noi adesso siamo al 9% mi sembra in Italia e anche in Lombardia. Abbiamo avuto anche difficoltà a partire anche per una riduzione di fornitura di vaccini, quindi la responsabilità non è solo nostra dal punto di vista.
With admissions up, the wards of the Papa Giovanni Hospital are again filling with patients and with dreaded déjà vu. And although they're now far better equipped to handle COVID cases, the threat of new variants keeps depleting the supply of confidence in these corridors.
Da Socrate, che sappiamo di non sapere, e quindi dobbiamo essere pronti ad affrontare difficoltà inattese e anche malattie che non conosciamo.
È come quando succede, non so, un terremoto, qualsiasi altra cosa, tu pensi sempre che sia una cosa lontana, che non ti arrivi. E quindi dici, non capiterà proprio a me, e invece capiterà proprio a me.
These days, Cinzia Cagnoni's wedding dress doesn't just remind her of the happiest day of her life. It makes her think of her mother, who never got to see her wear it. Maddalena Peracchi was hospitalized with COVID last March. Cinzia couldn't be with her or speak directly to her when she called the overwhelmed hospital day after day.
E quindi come ho detto il suo nome ho sentito subito un vocio basso, ho detto qua è successo qualcosa e infatti la persona che mi ha risposto mi ha detto guardi mi dispiace ma è morta ieri sera, non mi sapeva dire a che ora, non mi sapeva dire dove era, non mi sapeva dire niente, insomma. E infatti mi sono permessa di dirgli: capisco che siate in una situazione, nel senso, difficile, perché veramente ricordatevi che non sono sacchi di patate, cioè sono persone.
Playing her mother's favourite song on her balcony. Cinzia is spending the first anniversary of Maddalena's death by remembering her life. Putting together her wedding album and reflecting on happier days. It may be some time before Bergamo is finally able to move on from all this. It'll be even longer for Cinzia.
Però se ne fa presto a dimenticarsene e quindi è come se non avesse imparato niente. Poi succede che riparte un'altra ondata, ripartono altri problemi e quindi secondo me siamo sempre punte a capo.
Italians had hoped first in, first out. Being the first country in Europe to be felled by the virus might just mean it would be the first to get back up again. But the virus doesn't do that kind of logic, and Bergamo is forced to relive too much of its recent history to feel free. In a crisis now measured in years, not months. Well, I'm joined now by Professor Andrea Crisanti, who's Director of the Microbiology and Virology Unit at the University of Padua. Thanks for coming on the programme, Professor. When you see this piece, when you look around you in northern Italy especially, how much do you blame the lack of vaccines, the inefficient vaccine rollout, for the fact that Italy is now on the cusp of a third wave?
Well, I think this is a more generalized European problem. If you look at the percentage of vaccination in Italy, it's not far from France and Germany. I think if there is somebody to blame, is probably the European Union that didn't plan and the right supply. Probably there is no transparency on the contract. Apparently, there are some clauses of the contract that cannot be implemented, that can be imposed. So apparently, the company have a huge leverage on this company. And so apparently, there is not much the European Union can do. At the moment, I think they are thinking about renegotiating some of this contract, or asking the company to comply with the legal terms.
But do you think that there's been too much, sorry to interrupt, do you think there's too much politics here? Do you think that Italy has, and other countries indeed in Europe, have seen a delay of the vaccine because of political interference, which has ultimately put lives in danger?
No, I don't think so. I think at the beginning they were over-optimistic, both the politician as well as the big pharma company. Just think about AstraZeneca, is a pharmaceutical giant, but never produced a vaccine on its own. So I think it doesn't take anybody by surprise that at one point they ran in problem in production and distribution. The same is true for Moderna. They never produce anything. So, I mean, this is a huge enterprise which are produced hundreds of millions of doses and distributing around the world. So, I think when things are so complex, I think it's inevitable that things like this happen.
Right. So today we had Boris Johnson taking the AstraZeneca jab in the UK. We had the French Prime Minister Jean Castex taking it in France. We've just now in the last few minutes seen that the Italian Prime Minister will also take the AstraZeneca jab. So there seems to be a massive U-turn here from a number of politicians in Europe especially who had their doubts about AstraZeneca now saying, let's put it into our arms.
It was a much ado for nothing, really. And it was a kind of a domino decision taken on basis of panics and not on scientific terms. When then science took his place again, then things turned back to sense.
And the Italian Prime Minister taking the jab, presumably, on television as well, will that make a difference to all those Italians who become very hesitant about vaccinations?
On several interviews, I said that there is, let's say, they should look also the positive aspects of this. That is that the politician reacted on a very low threshold. So this means that they care for the well-being of the people. And then now if they're taking the jab, and now if the scientific authorities sanction that the vaccine is effective and safe, I think they should be satisfied. They should take comfort from this.
Okay.
So I think it was.
Thank you very much, Professor Crisanti in Padua. Thank